What's up, everybody? Summer is here. Rob Live back in the house with Mr. James Chance.
How you doing?
Well, you got a week left of school.
I do.
I feel bad. I just rubbed it in. Huh?
Yeah, you did. Well, I just got back from the coast, and it was wonderful.
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
You're in Pismo.
Yeah, we had a graduation get together with my family and surprised them showing up, my brother and I, and it was fun. We had an '80s theme party.
What did you dress as?
Skater.
Oh, yeah.
I had my Bones Brigade. I took a board. I had my old Rector pads and everything.
Okay, guys, little background on Mr. Jim here. He's got a wall. Where's that wall full of collection of skateboards?
I have probably 30 skateboards from back in the day in the 80s. Yeah.
We got to do a whole episode on that.
They're not sentimental because they're not boards I actually skated. A lot of them I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't keep any of those. And like if I still had my Tony Hawk, that's like worth $3,000.
Dang, he said Tony Hawk. You're going way back.
Yeah, I had, I went Christian Hosoi, Tommy Guerrero, Mike McGill, Lance Mountain.
I thought Lance Mountain was like a name of a label. I didn't know it was a guy's name.
Yeah, no, he was in Bones Brigade, Pal Peralta.
Dang.
So it brings me back. Every time I look at those boards, I'm just like, it's 80s.
80s, baby. So now we're getting into 2026, and we have a lot of graduates. So anyone out there who's watching who graduated this year, congratulations. Whether it's high school, 8th grade, college, this is always a big time. And I know that that's just a body of work. That's how we celebrate that. My son and daughter just graduated. Yeah, Shout out to Maddie, 8th grade graduation for the Jefferson Aguilas. Shout out to Big Panda, who was with the Sierra Pacific High School Golden Bears, where I actually work. And he gave the speech this year.
You told me. And 2 graduates in the same year. That's a lot to swallow.
That's busy, huh?
That's nice.
Speaking of busy.
Mm-hmm.
Our guest today, you guys, is probably, we just talked about how his accolades grow and grow, but we're going to label him the busiest man in Fresno County. Is that fair?
Sure.
Artie Padilla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, and I appreciate, given the work week that you tell me you have, that you actually made time for us, so thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to be here.
So, little background, we met through the the Latino Leadership Academy. You're one of the mentors. You're one of the speakers. You make time for that. But you have had an impact in the Valley, I want to say, the last 30 years?
I would say I started doing a lot more community work around 2001. So 25 years.
Yes. And I want to start from the beginning. You are from Fresno?
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised? Yeah. Where'd you go to high school?
Central High.
Central High,
Grizzlies.
Just
one high school.
When it was just one high school. The Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies.
Did you have any interest back then in the work that you do now? Like, was there any hint or inkling which way you were going to go direction-wise?
I think actually in elementary school, I did. High school, I don't know. I was just wanted to get done. I actually took ROP my final year at Central High School. But when I was young, my dad had a lunch truck business, so we would always be selling in the summer out like Mendota, Fireball, Oro Loma.
Who are your primary customers? Were you setting up by the fields? Or?
No, we were. I was primarily parked at a tomato check station, where the trucks would come in after they come from the fields, and then they pull into this machine, and these big suction cups would come in, and they take out some of the tomatoes, and then they sort through them. I think that's where they were testing if it was like go to the grocery store tomatoes or it's ketchup tomatoes. Okay. So I think that was they were looking at it, and probably USDA was there inspecting for bugs and stuff like that. But it was probably the laborers around there, but the truck drivers, because it was just all day long. So I would have the newspaper with me, and I would read the newspaper. And that got me ingrained in civics. I was reading about stuff I fully didn't understand, right?
Yeah.
But I just that's what I had to read. So I read that cover to cover every day. And as I got older, the stuff I was reading made sense when you started taking civics classes in 8th grade and in high school.
Was this like the Fresno Bee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Back when it was like a thick newspaper. Yeah. So I think that. But then when in ROP, I took a telephone operating class, and they said, hey, you want to do a mentorship? So they placed me at EOC, and with the executive director. and I was in his office there, and I would like see people coming and going, like the who's who of like city leaders, city council members, and because EOCs are probably the largest nonprofit in Fresno, and
What does EOC stand for again?
Economic Opportunities Commission.
Yes.
So that's the government's community change. It was created in the '60s to fight poverty.
And you were right there in the middle of it.
Yeah. I was answering phones and stuff, but I was paying attention.
So I
right?
would imagine that like if leaders from out of state or California, they were fairly prominent, would probably come through for tours and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of city leaders. I remember city council members coming in, and people that like he was really. Oh gosh, now my brain's forgetting the director's name, African American leader, but he'd always introduce me. Say, hey, this is Artie. This is and so the names I go, I've heard that name before, and it was I would read those names in the newspaper.
Oh, and then meet them in
Right,
person.
so it was like things started clicking. The light bulb starts coming on, and but after when I took off to Ventura and went to Ventura College, Northridge, and I came back, and that's when I really got fully ingrained in community work.
So now leaving the Valley, I always feel like that's a very impactful moment. Jim, you've left to Sacramento and a couple other places. I was in Central Coast, Bay Area, Los Angeles. You left to Ventura County. And I always talk to people about that first experience going out and then coming back. I don't know about you guys, but I just felt a different appreciation for the Valley once I left it.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I fell in love with like Ventura. In fact, I'm going there at the end of the month. I love going over there still.
Were you at the beach, surfing? Or?
You can go up to Ojai and hike.
Ojai,
bike
yes.
riding. You can do a lot. But yeah, I fell in love with that Santa Barbara Ventura area, and but yeah, family's here, so came back. I had to reintegrate. I guess I got allergies for the first year I came back. I never had allergies before, so I had to deal with that. But then and. Yeah, it was volunteering that really got me ingrained in like community work and really understanding urban life in Fresno, and really glad. I mean, it was the volunteering started with the church I was attending, and and then it just grew from there.
Are you still with the church there?
Yeah.
What's the name of the church?
Well, it's the Well Community Church.
The Well.
Yeah,
I've heard of the Well.
And I've been there, and I live in Southwest Fresno, so I go to St. Res Baptist Church every now and then. I know the pastor really well there, On Ramps Covenant Church. When I launched a nonprofit Every Neighborhood Partnership, launched out of the Well, and one of the things that was core to our mission was to mobilize other churches, and to serve in our elementary schools. So really got at our peak right before COVID, like I was working with like 75 different churches. So I got to know a lot of churches. So I would start going to those churches, and like I got to know the pastors, and it's like I learned there was some really good teachers, biblical teachers here in Fresno. So I still bounce around, and I like visiting other churches because the vibe is different, the music's different, the teaching's slightly different, as long as it's like theologically correct, right? It's good, and so I do like to bounce around still.
So faith plays a big role in
It's
kind of guides your journey.
Yeah.
So then you go to college, you come back. What was your first job back after Ventura?
I got a job it's called the California Hawaii Elks Major Project. So all the Elks Lodges in California and Hawaii are kind of like one big association, and all the lodges, the members pay dues that go into this fund for their nonprofit. And their nonprofit's called the Major Project. And the administrative office happens to be here in Fresno. So
and what do they focus on?
They work across the state and Hawaii and California, and the money goes towards hiring speech pathologists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and vision screeners. And these clinicians primarily go out into rural areas where there's not a lot of services from cities, counties, or school districts, and they work with families that kind of fall through the cracks. And these therapists will drive they all have company vehicles, and they'll drive out in the middle of nowhere and provide these services, usually at their home.
Wow, that sounds right down my alley. Jim, you're an elk, right?
Yes.
How do you
we
like the
just
elk
joined.
life?
You know, it's. I have to throw myself under the bus, but I have not.
You haven't gone to a meeting yet?
No. Well, we've gone to the dinners and the potlucks.
Which lodge?
So I'm a member of. We signed up in the Visalia one.
Oh yeah.
But because Madera's right here, we've gone to Madera, and then I have some coworkers that said, "Dude, we do karaoke night on Fridays. You got to go." So Les and I went, and we had dinner, and come across a couple substitute teachers that I had in my class. You know, like, oh shoot, there's more people.
Wait, so the Elks Lodge has like a restaurant?
Well, no, it's potluck.
Potluck.
People bring in, and they do fundraising stuff for So what he was saying, and but we got into it thinking we were going to travel and use the camping part of it, and it's summertime, so we will. You know, it's like now we're going to get going. My aunt's a member. My dad was a member. My dad was an elk and a moose. Yeah, I think he was a moose. Then there's eagles and lions and bears.
Right.
Oh my, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if my memory is still good. Visalia was at 250 South Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
You remember that?
I would send out stuff to all the lodges. There's like I don't know, 100, 200 lodges across.
You know, and it's actually, there's a lot they do, right? Like what he was saying is they do a lot. I mean, but you know, I don't know. It's just at a certain age, I don't get me wrong. I'm a people person. I love meeting new people. But the Visalia one does. Not to throw any of them under the bus or you know, say they're less fortunate. And I'm sure they all do stuff, but they do car shows. They do all kinds of stuff. But I think it's just nice because my cousins go there, my aunt goes there, so it's kind of like a family connection. But it's in Visalia.
Visalia one.
Yeah. But
So-
we'll get Madera under our radar.
So here's the thing I want to explain to the audience, because many of you might be like myself. I grew up driving to new communities, especially here in the Valley, and I would see all these welcome signs, right? So whenever you drive to small Central Valley communities, audience members, there's welcome signs from these different organizations. And so it says, welcome to Kingsburg, and it has a Lions logo, Lions Club. It's got the Elks Lodge. It's got the Rotary Club. It's got the, what's the other one? Kiwanis. And my whole life, I didn't know what those, I thought they were like just companies that made products. I had no idea that these were service-oriented organizations. It wasn't until I'm 30 years old and I'm trying to build this library project that I'm starting to educate myself on all the work that these organizations do. Are you part of one?
I'm not. I'm so busy.
Neutral party?
I'm in the normal society club of community.
But but you do a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So with that being said, at what point do you decide that that's going to be the sector that you're going to focus on, which is the nonprofit sector?
Well, I mean, I was at the Elks for 16, almost 17 years.
Wow.
I loved it there. I loved the mission. I got to travel around the state and then nationally because we would participate in the national Elks conventions all over the country. And I loved it. I loved it. It was, didn't get paid a ton of money, but that was okay. I love working with purpose, right? For purpose.
Yes.
But it, so it was really, I've been pretty much in nonprofit my whole career after college. So, but it was getting, as I said, I was volunteering. I was at one school in near Towers called Susan B. Anthony Elementary, right
Yeah, I've
off
heard
of
of that
Olive and Blackstone. And
she has a coin. Doesn't she have a coin?
Yeah, there's a
Susan B.
coin.
Anthony?
Uh-huh.
Is that the 50 center?
It was a $1.
Oh,
I think.
$1. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, Susan. Why don't you cut you in half?
So I just got immersed in that school, in that neighborhood. We started, our church started a Saturday morning recreation program called Saturday Sports, and I ran that. And then, I got to know the kids, the families, and then the principal said, hey, you guys are doing a great job out there on Saturdays. It's like, we could use some help with classroom mentors and literacy helpers. And the well was growing as a congregation. And so I went back to my pastor and missions pastor and says, hey, they're asking for more help. It's like, hey,
There's the calling.
recruit. So I recruited, and we at one point we had probably like 40 individuals coming on the campus Monday through Friday during the school day, helping in we would train them, get them fingerprinted, get them in classrooms, and let them work with the teachers closely. And then we had another 25, 30 on Saturday mornings. We started an after-school program there because there was no after-school program there.
Yeah.
Like we were fully and we didn't charge a dime, right? Nobody was paid. I wasn't paid. Nobody was paid. So, but we saw the impact that it was happening. And then, so our missions pastor says, like we've got 400 churches in Fresno. We've got like 90, there's actually 92 public elementary schools in Fresno. Like, why can't we match up more? So that was the launch of Every Neighborhood Partnership, the nonprofit. So I didn't really want to, I was at the Elks. I didn't want to launch a nonprofit. Yeah. I was doing it. The Elks, I was there for so long. The director, he gave me freedom to go and, do some stuff during the day. And I did a lot of my stuff on the weekends. But when they asked me that, I thought about it for about 6 months. And I says, like, that I think that is my next calling. That's my personal next step for my journey.
When you make big decisions like that, I find that a lot of people who are believers, they have like this process of prayer that kind of helps them to. For
sure, prayer and talking to people, right? And everyone that knew me closely understood that it's like, of course, this is your next step. They knew me, right? And they knew all the energy that I was putting into that school. And it's like, everyone knew it was a no-brainer except me. So yeah. I finally, the Lord finally knocked me upside the head and I said, okay, all right, let's do it. So the first thing I did is I closed out some of my retirement accounts and paid off my mortgage. It's like, I don't know if this nonprofit's going to last. So I want to make sure I'm debt free. So I've been debt free ever since. And
wow, that's huge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Round of applause for that. Debt free.
So yeah.
When will I be able to say that? I don't know.
Yeah, but I live a pretty simple life. And once again, no wife, no kids. So that helps a lot too.
Very simple.
Yeah. So that, I launched that in 2008. Just at one point, we were in like 52 elementary schools.
Wow.
And mostly in Fresno Unified. I was in one in Washington Unified and in a couple in Central Unified. Actually, in a couple in Clovis Unified.
And what was the primary mission?
Was really to mobilize volunteers to serve on elementary school campuses, with the literacy need and the mentoring need, and they just needed. If someone had time to go and help out during recess, the teacher says we would love especially if they know how to organize some games, like that was such a huge help. So we found if I would tell people if you have some free time anywhere between 8 a.m. And 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday and 8 to 12 on Saturday, I can use you, right? So you tell me when you're free and I'll give you the options. So
was there a certain type of individual that you found was connected to this sort of work?
Well, we had to fingerprint everyone, so that sometimes that created a little bit of a barrier for some that were formerly incarcerated that couldn't work with kids. So, but for them, at that point we were also in the neighborhoods too, so they could work with some of the adults. And in fact, I'm glad you brought that up. We had some formerly incarcerated folks that wanted to volunteer. They changed their life around, but because of some things on the record, they couldn't work with kids. But like I would actually tell them, hey, I got a lot of parents that come to Saturday sports. They bring their kids. Like, would you want to just have like a side like town hall meeting with these parents? Because like they look just like that person, tatted up. It's like they'll listen to you before they listen to me. So that actually turned out to be a really good on-ramp for some of our folks that couldn't work with the kids, but they could like speak truth into some of the families and they can tell their journey.
Wow.
So like, and I think some of those conversations changed trajectories of lives.
That's
right.
So now, speaking of that changing trajectory and having an impact, I have an experience now, and I don't know if I've really ever shared it with Jim, and I want to see if you can resonate with this or connect to it. So prior to doing the work that we do, the nonprofit work, serving, trying to, change patterns, be cycle breakers, et cetera. Prior to all that, I would see things on the news, right? That society is going in a certain direction, things are going bad, and I'd feel very helpless about it. Mm-hmm. I have to say now it's a different feeling, because although I'm still concerned about some of the societal ills that exist, I no longer feel helpless because I'm reminded, I'm doing the work. And although my work may be to a specific town and a small population, not the entire world, I just feel fulfilled, like I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
And that's a different feeling when you hear bad news, because, what is the average? What can I do? Well, it's out of my hands. It's too big, right? But when I look at myself, yourself, other people who are doing things, teachers, educators, there's this little sense of comfort saying, hey, man, I'm doing my part. Yeah. I'm a contributor, and it feels different. Do you feel that?
Well, for sure. I mean, you just described you have meaning in your life, right? And there was just an article that I read online yesterday, maybe Friday, that when people have meaning in their life, that their joy, they measure it somehow scientifically, their joy is like fivefold, tenfold, I don't know. But it's the folks that and sadly, that's the data point. The last data point I read from, I think the Pew Trust was only 22% of Americans say they enjoy their job. So it's it tells me they're just kind of going through the motions. I mean, they're getting paid, they're doing what they need to do, but they don't feel fulfilled by it. There's no meaning in it, right? So that's unfortunate. But I think it's when you can find your calling.
Yes.
That aligns with meaning, right? And you can get paid to do it. I've been blessed to be able to do that. The ones that I see that are just, whether they're getting paid a lot or a little, if they're doing what they're called to do, they have joy in their life, and then they feel like they're contributing to society. And it sure is hard to get down, even in today's world, right? With what you read and everything in it. But I'm also hopeful because I see, what others are doing out in the community. That's the viewpoint that I have. I'm in the neighborhoods. I'm in conversations with institutional leaders, and everything in between. So I get to see the bigger picture, and it's what I see on a day-to-day basis coming from the community that really drives me to just keep doing my part. Yeah.
Wow. So that being said, you're exposed to all these different nonprofit types, leaders, et cetera. Is there any commonality you see with these individuals in terms of their either personality traits and say, hey, this is kind of a common thread?
Well, most of them are achievers. You look at that Strength Finders. Most of them are achievers, and they just are driven to get some stuff done. And I'm not blind to the fact that some people start nonprofits just to create a job for themselves. So
I see.
And I've seen that too, because I see the lack of energy to invest in others. It's to do the cycle of things that they need to do to keep their nonprofit going. And that's a small percentage. So, but it's unfortunate, right? But man, the ones that are getting stuff done, they're just achievers. They're folks that they have resilience to them, right? Because they have to fundraise. When you're a nonprofit leader, you got to do everything, right? So, but they figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So they know how to problem solve. They're driven. There's this. We were talking earlier about energy and restoring your cup. Is they figured out how to build that resilience, right?
Yeah.
They do what they need to do to make sure that they're not constantly getting drained. So
you learn that over time.
Well, yeah. Well,
in the beginning, you're like, yes.
Hopefully, someone's teaching it to
yeah.
you, right? Because otherwise, you get burnt out, and
Yeah.
then your doctor tells you what you need to be doing. And sometimes that's been the case with some of my friends.
Well, I want to talk about this in nonprofit because I'm sure you see it, Jim. I don't know if you've heard this before, if I shared this with you, but when I first got started, this is 2014, trying to get the library going. I had some really great mentors, right? And one of them, Matt Naylor, he was telling me, hey, you got to read this book.
I remember Matt.
Of course, he knows Matt. He knows her.
Yeah.
But Matt helped me. He was pivotal in the library for London. He was already doing work in London, and he said, "Hey, you should check out this book." And I want to say that it was called Toxic, not Generosity, but it was something about being in the nonprofit world and doing it in a way.
When Helping Hurts? Was that the
Yes,
book?
it was something like
Yeah.
that. But there's the part, and Jim, chime in on this. So we identify a need sometimes, right? Outside looking in. Like, for example, London. We look at my community of London and say, London needs this, right? So I decided, Jim, that London needed a library. I did, right? Which means I didn't check with the people. I didn't ask them about themselves. And Matt described this as this knight in shining armor kind of approach. And it's actually like toxic in a way, because it's like, well, wait a minute, like, who said we needed to be saved, and are we helpless, and right? It implies all these things, and you're well intentioned because you're trying to help a community, but the way you go about it can almost be like a insulting.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize that at first, and so I got lucky in the sense that the library was really an answer. It was prayer. It was coming from God. And apparently he had checked with the people because they were all on board with it, and it happened. But I dodged a bullet there because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so my next round, which was Stratford, we had a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
First thing we did, ask them what you guys want. And one of the things they said was this, a safe turning lane into our community. And lucky to say in 2030, a $6 million roundabout is something we achieved. But getting back to my point here is that sometimes we're well-intentioned that we want to give and help, but it's our perception of what they need versus what they truly have asked. And so then a lot of times you build something, they don't use it. You're like, wow, why didn't anyone use it? Well, did you ask them if they even wanted it in the first place? It's like grandma giving you a pair of socks for Christmas, right? You didn't want the socks.
It's like teaching ASB. I mean, your community members are your elected officials that are in that class in leadership, and they're representing their class, their classmates, and so on. And so it's kind of the same thing. And me as an administrator at the time, oh, we need to have a
rally.
Let's do. And I still like
bonfire. I was gonna say bonfire.
We tried it one time, but let's do a drive-in movie night at the end of the year for the seniors. Oh, that sounds great, And then you start thinking about it, and you're like, who's going to monitor all the kids in the cars drinking that you don't see? Who's going to monitor, So you start thinking, oh, it's a great idea. And then really you start brainstorming with the other kids and stuff. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's a horrible idea.
Well, the question, too, is did you even ask the mass population of students, not just the ASB kids?
No.
See,
no.
that's what we're talking about.
You almost need a huge suggestion box in town, or something like, what do you think we need? We need clean water. We don't need
Eddie Valero was the one who said, have a town hall. And I was like, ooh. So what, do you see that a lot of that?
Oh, yeah. Well, with the church, it's the Savior complex, right? So,
elaborate on that.
We would do like spring break camps, like, and the churches would come in and they say, oh, we want to do this for you. We want to do this without like. So we would witness this and we say, okay, like, hold on. It's like, why don't you get to know them, right? And then ask them what they need. And and then just like, maybe they don't need what you're thinking they need, right? So it's the same mentality. I'm actually living this out right now in Easton. One of my resident executive committee members for DRIVE, the initiative I lead up, she's from Easton. And the last year, she's been, Artie, it's like, when can we do some stuff in Easton? And I said, well, it's like, I don't know, maybe like, so I just like, I didn't have the time to help her the way I wanted to. And then finally late last year, I said, okay, Priscilla, let's strategize about this. At the same time, a pastor from Easton, Steve Dominguez, reached out to me. He has a nonprofit called Peacemakers. And he says, hey, Artie, I think we've met in the past, but I want to like let you know what's going on with my nonprofit. And it's like, so he and I met, and I said, hey, it's like, it's perfect timing. Priscilla, my friend, lives in Easton. She wants to do some stuff. You're doing stuff in Easton. So I got them together, and I wanted them to hear each other's vision. So, but then I said, okay, it's like now let's meet with the residents, one meeting, the nonprofits that work in Easton, and then the school district. The three main players. And then Steve was going to meet with all the pastors. So we gathered. I knew most of the nonprofits, so I gathered them first. It was easier to grab them, and then I wanted to know what services do you provide in Easton? Like I did an asset mapping of them, and then Priscilla did door knocking, and she got about 20 residents together for the first meeting. We're actually meeting tomorrow night. It's the next meeting, and we asked the residents what they needed, and there was some water issues over there. There's some infrastructure, sidewalks, streetlights, things like that. Some voiced they need pathways to jobs for the 20-year-olds. So we jotted all that down. So tomorrow night we're actually bringing both groups together, and they'll always stay together moving forward now. But I'm always, with the first conversations, I keep the residents separate because I don't want the nonprofit voice to overpower the resident voice. Right, I want the residents to have freedom to say what they need without others around.
What's the best way to do that, you think? If I'm going to a new community, want to start something, and I want to get the residents, I just have a separate meeting with them?
Yeah. So Priscilla, living there, she took the lead on just door knocking. Now, Pastor, he has a food distribution, so they recruited from that too. So getting about 20, 25 residents for the first meeting is actually really good.
Do you facilitate that, or they facilitate?
I facilitated it. I'm trained in asset-based community development, so basically is like you ask a series of questions about like
I'm writing that down.
What do you love about the neighborhood? Tell me some of the things that you love about it, and we jot out, we visualize it, so we write it on whiteboards as they're talking about it, and then we go to like, well, what are some of the challenges you have in the neighborhood? So, they verbalize that, we jot that down, and then we say like, okay. Our goal is how do we mobilize the assets to speak into the challenges with some solutions, right? So tomorrow night is where we're like going to kind of summarize the two conversations. There's a lot of common themes, and really talk about some strategies and see which ones they want to go with moving forward.
Now, what was the term again?
Asset-based community development.
Write that down, folks. That's a good one.
ABCD. Asset-based community development. So,
and there's whole books on this?
Oh yeah. It's a lot of research-based stuff created in the 80s, and it's just a different way of community organizing. But it's really elevating the assets. The number one asset being in any urban neighborhood or rural town is the people and the kids. Right? They're the number one assets. But then you got the people assets, and then you've got the physical assets: a library, a business, a park, a school. Right? All of those things are assets in the community as well. So you can actually map it out too. I got Pastor Steve a map that encompasses some of Easton, not all of it. I didn't have a full map of Easton, but I said like start jotting things down. Where are all the churches? Those are assets in the neighborhood, right? Or they could be. And let's look at where are the parks, where are the main streets that have sidewalks. Like let's look at everything. So there's a lot of mapping, but a lot of that you can better understand a community or a neighborhood by talking to the residents and the youth, get their perspective, and then I do what I call a windshield tour. So you just drive around and you're looking, and so one person's driving, the other one's jotting things down.
Windshield tour.
And then you can do a walking audit too. So a walking audit is where a group of people are just walking down the street and they're taking a picture of a blighted home that's boarded up, or a broken sidewalk, or a street light that isn't working. So they'll write the pole number of that light down so they can tell their city council member, hey, it's pole number blah 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 on this street right here by this address. So they can send someone to go fix it, right? So we do those walking audits as well. So it's just, there's so many different ways for the community to get their. We hold off on walking audits because we do a series of like civic learnings so that they can better understand like Easton's all county, right? So you have to understand county structures of who to call for public works and things like that. And like half of when met with the residents, half of them didn't even know who their board of supervisor was.
Yeah, that was me my whole life.
Yeah.
He became my best friend once I wanted to do a library because I realized the
Yeah.
importance of that role.
Yeah.
But growing up, did you know who was this county supervisor? Rosie, how many years?
Well, though, till my 20s, yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, you grew up in Orosi?
In Cutler, Rossi, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just there a week ago
Oh, yeah.
at the high school. Yeah.
Nope, have no idea.
Well, it's Eddie now.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
So Eddie's been on the show.
Yeah,
And he's a
yeah.
good friend of ours.
Yeah.
So now you know who he
Oh,
is.
now I know.
For now. Oh, wow. Yeah, so there's so much to this. So, like I said, off camera, I wanted to kind of create like this kind of step-by-step process or just answering a few questions for someone who may be watching who's like, hey, I have a purpose, I have a cause, I want to make some movement in a nonprofit world. So it sounds like step one was to verify or identify the assets within that community you're trying to serve.
Yeah. And anyone can, any resident leader or group of residents in any town or urban neighborhood can do this for free.
Let me ask you though, what kind of license or test must they pass to engage in this activity?
Nothing.
Did you guys hear that?
Nothing.
You have full permission.
Yeah.
It's funny when it comes to this kind of work. People have these assumptions that I have some sort of special licensing or experience. I'm just a regular resident who recognized the need and
It's
just
good to get trained.
yeah. Well,
So-
I didn't have that.
Right. No, there's some learning components to it, but
Yeah.
any resident can be trained on this.
There we go.
Any
You
resident.
hear that, guys?
Yeah.
So get off the couch and go for it.
You just have to want to do it.
So it has to be a strong desire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I want to get to the bigger picture now. This Central Valley Community Foundation, which, from my understanding, serves a vast area of needs for somebody who is currently in the nonprofit world and are trying to gather resources. I mean, I'm sure everybody's asking all the time, what are some distinguishing factors that you like to see from organizations applying?
Well, so okay, I want to start with like what is a community foundation?
Yes.
Because they're across the country. So we are the one certified community foundation in the Central Valley. So we cover, besides Fresno, Tulare, Kings, Madera, Merced, and Mariposa. So 6 counties.
6 counties.
So it's a big footprint. And so what a community foundation, a traditional one, and we're 60 years old now. We're celebrating our
Wow.
60th year as a
Congratulations.
foundation. Yeah. And so a traditional community foundation goes out and finds local donors, people that have a little bit of money, right? And what they do is they try to convince them and say, hey, instead of creating your own family trust, like you can create a fund at the foundation, and we'll take care of all the IRS stuff, file everything that needs to be done every year, and we'll even invest your money. And like the money that's earned through the investments every year, that's what you can grant out, right? So there's different. I'm simplifying stuff, but there's different mechanisms of how a donor can hold their money with us. And I kind of break them up into 2 different donors. There's a DAF, a donor advised fund. So these donors, they give us their money, but then they say, I already know who I want to fund. I'm just going to tell you when and how much to cut the checks for throughout the year. That's a
Okay.
DAF, right? So I think 80% of our donors are DAFs, if I remember the numbers.
That's great that you say that, because as a nonprofit and talking to other nonprofits, right, we're thinking that you guys are making all the decisions on
Yeah.
all of the money.
Well, that's why I want to go over
And we
this.
go, there's millions of dollars out there. I'm not seeing any. Are you seeing any? Right?
No, and I asked the same questions when I was running my ENP. So I didn't know either. And I thought they had this vault.
Yeah.
There's no vault. There's
All
no
right,
vault
you're
of
helping a
unrestricted.
lot of us today.
So that's 80%. So we really have no control. Our staff they're really trying to talk to them and open their eyes to some other possibilities. But right now that's they know who they want to give to. The other smaller 20%, we're talking like maybe 25 funds, 25 donors that have a fund with us, and we hold their money and they give us guardrails guardrails meaning like they've told us like, hey, like you guys can choose who to give the money to, but I want to make sure it either goes towards like preserving the river or a veteran, supporting veterans, supporting the elderly, supporting animal shelters, right? They'll give us specific things and we have to adhere to that. So, you know, we've got some flexibility in that. That's probably about, I don't know, 1.5 million a year, which is a good chunk, but it's when you think about all the nonprofits, it's not a big chunk, right?
Yeah.
So, so that money goes out. So, but when Ashley Swearingen came on board in 2017, she says, okay, great. We have those DAFs. We call the other ones field of interest funds. And then it's like, but she wanted to have more of a community change component. So, that's where Drive kicked in. That's the initiative I lead up. And like, we don't, unless a donor says, hey, I like that Drive thing you're doing, here's a little bit of money. I have to go out and write grants for Drive, right? So I'm constantly writing grants, trying to get money from other foundations.
So you're a grant
nationally.
writer.
Yeah, I have to be. Yeah. So I have to raise money too. So, you know, that's, I guess all the nonprofits that are out there is like, we have a small sliver of some money that like, has a little bit of wiggle room, but it has to align with those. But Drive, the initiative that I lead up, is very complex with everything from community organizing to small business development to workforce development to K-16 collaborative to housing to corridor work, meaning corridors like Blackstone, Ventura, Kings Canyon, major corridor development, downtown revitalization. We've got a small initiative called Next Gen Aviation, where they're teaching high school students how to fly planes out at Chandler.
I heard about
yeah.
something at maybe was it Clovis Unified was doing something?
Well, they're doing something similar.
Okay.
But this nonprofit's been doing it for about 5 years now
That's
at Chandler
very
Airport.
cool.
So and primarily like working with Edison students.
Yeah.
You know, he's this former pilot. He's still a pilot, but he's no longer flying commercially. But he's teaching students how to fly. They have electric planes out at Chandler, so he teaches them the small planes.
Very cool.
And he can get them. He's got about 3 or 4 that can fly on their own now, but at the small planes. But they have
That's
to take the
crazy
next
to
level
say.
to get the bigger planes. Right?
And these are high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of them are now in junior high. I'm
So you're a
junior
pilot
college.
in high school. How cool is that,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, he's trying to get students of color into the aviation field, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like 97% white males in aviation.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
So
a large
Yeah.
percentage.
It's not a very diverse field.
No.
And he's a white male. So
Yeah.
he's like everyone looks like me.
Let's diversify.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's a great
He's a really
initiative.
good guy, and we work with UCSF Fresno to try to get more students of color into their medical school pathways as well. So, but you know, all of those things we have to go out and try to find federal, state, local dollars, write grants for these initiatives and things like that. So we're constantly hustling to bring in money.
So that changes my whole vision. Maybe that's what today was about, is understanding the Central Valley Foundation. Because, yes, there is a lot of misconceptions.
yeah,
So I'll tell you what the impression was, you know, just layman terms. They've got millions of dollars, and they're all sending it to their favorite groups.
Yeah.
And there's a gatekeeper, you know.
Yeah.
So now
For sure.
we know.
Yeah,
Now we
well,
know.
and I'm not going to say that like we don't. I'm trying to, my within my role, I'm trying to make sure that we don't donate to the same nonprofits over and over and over. Right?
Yeah.
We want to diversify that. But yeah, we don't have this big chunk of money. Most like when I write grants, the big ones, most of the funded partners are already embedded in the grant, right? Because that's a lot of our big funders. They kind of speak into how the money where it flows as well.
Got it.
So, you know, it's yeah.
Now, I
it's
heard
hard.
some connections. I don't know if I read them somewhere or not, but I just want to verify. One of them was the Melinda Gates Foundation. Is that actually a partner with you guys?
No.
Okay. So that was one I heard. Hewlett Packard?
Packard's, we get some from them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was the other thing I heard. Said, there's all these Bay Area big time people
Yeah,
given to the foundation.
So also I guess a learning thing, like Packard, they choose cities that they want to put more investment, and so they chose Fresno's been a focus in like a decade ago, but then recently they've put a renewed vision on Fresno. They fund several organizations. I think they give us a little. I think they give us some money. I don't know how much they give us.
Okay.
Just for general operating stuff. I'm thinking, I don't remember, but they're funding some other entities that do maternal health and some other areas too. So a lot of their money just goes directly to some other nonprofits out in the community.
Okay.
And that's similar with, like, you'll hear Kresge Foundation, Irvine Foundation.
Is the Irvine Foundation connected with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do hear they do a lot of great work, and every time I see like great projects, they're always connected in some way.
They are, and
I want to be friends with them.
They are also really good thought partners. They are smart people that understand this work. They're not just like funders. They're community practitioners of community development.
Were you
human
with them
development.
at all at one point?
No.
Somebody at our Latino Leadership Foundation. Mrs. Veronica. Is it Veronica Paz?
Vivian Paz.
Vivian Paz.
She's on the board.
She's on. That's who it was.
Yeah,
she's on the board.
Yeah. Tim Rios was on the
on the
board.
board?
He got off, and then Vivian got on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're based out of Fresno?
Irvine? No, they're LA Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have one of the portfolios that we get some money from them is called their priority city. Fresno just happens to be one of their priority cities. Stockton, Salinas, Inland Empire. I'm missing one somewhere. But yeah, Merced is a new priority city. So they put some extra energy and put some funding into those communities.
Oh. Where do you see yourself within the next 5-10 years in terms of your nonprofit work?
Yeah, I've been in September. I'll have been at CVCF for 6 years. I told myself when I started that I'd go 3 years to get the feel of working for a foundation, and then every year I'd just make the decision: do I want to stay here? And every year, at September is my anniversary date, and I stop and I think it's like, no, I'm still liking it. It's really. I've learned so much. Working under Ashley, she's so brilliant. She's just smart. So I
have to get her in here. We like to be around smart people, huh, Jim?
She is. I'm okay smart. She's a different level. Seriously, a different level of brilliance that like I can't keep up with. Yeah, I have the opportunity to work in the communities. I love what I'm doing in Easton right now. I love those neighborhood conversations. I'm still in urban neighborhood conversations. I get to be in meetings with the institutional leaders, and I hopefully I can speak truth to them based on what I know from the community conversations, so that our decision makers are making well-informed decisions that are hopefully making decisions that will actually make impact and change for like the families that we serve. I've learned that our systems are so complex. It's hard to change systems, right? Because they're so entrenched, and the political structure is so, I don't know, it's complex too.
Well, yeah, I wanted to comment on that. And Jim, I don't know if I shared this with you as much about the nonprofit world, but when I first got into it, right, my mindset was it's nonprofit. So because people aren't in it to profit, there shouldn't be a whole lot of conflict. I was dead wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Didn't you think the same thing from the outside looking in, like nonprofit stuff? Like, no one's making a profit, so what are we fighting over?
Yeah, you get what you get.
Yeah, and so that's what I thought it was going to be. But there's a lot of, in my experience, and Artie, you can speak to this, there's a kind of a political agenda at times, because I may be in the work to position myself for something later. And so it becomes a great election selling piece to say, hey, I serve on this and this. And so when you get some of the political mindsets behind the nonprofit work, you start to hit these walls and you're like, wait, why are we against this? And it's like, well, it doesn't align, or the optics aren't there. It doesn't look
Right.
as good on camera, or, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't create as many likes or draws for attention. And I don't know, have you experienced any of that?
Yeah. Well, so the Valley, as nonprofit leaders, the Valley has been severely underfunded in comparison to LA, San Diego, Inland Empire. Well, leave out Inland Empire. LA Bay Area, right? In fact, Irvine, this was like when I was early on at ENP, like 2010, 11, like for every, if I remember right, for every dollar, philanthropic dollar that came into California, like I think 9 cents of that dollar hit the Valley. The rest went to
9 cents.
Yeah. So, you know, you multiply that by millions, it's just not a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, so that creates a mindset and mental model for nonprofit leaders that we have to fight. We're all fighting for the same scraps, right?
Yeah.
So there's that deficit mindset, right? That has been entrenched. Now, you know, more money's been coming in the last 10 years, because people are noticing that, one, there's a felt need, poverty's so great, yet like we're a major engine for California's economy with ag, right? And we've got so many disparities, but it's hard to get past that mental model of you've got to fight and elbow for the dollars instead of stopping and think like, no, like don't fight for that piece of the pie. Create more pies, find more pies so that we can all eat, right?
Oh, I like that.
But that's a hard sell, you know, because it is, and we're all writing. A grant comes out and everyone sees it like boom, right? So everyone goes.
We're all
after
writing
it.
our verse.
And it's hard.
Well, I can tell you this, that what I've learned about fighting for the pie, and Jim, you might have noticed this, me mentioning Valley Voices. You ever hear me talk about them at all?
Yeah.
So Valley Voices, they're in Kings County,
Yeah.
and they're credit to their director, Ruth Lopez, and the wonderful work they do. They came to us, right? We're significantly smaller. We're serving one community, and they're saying, hey, listen, we are looking at this pie, and guess what? There's a couple slices that we want to give to you. And so what's happening now is we're partnering.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started nonprofit, I was like, okay, everything has to be reestablishing Stratford, reestablish. I said, no. There's these other groups who are bigger and better at doing this sort of work, and they want to partner with us because they want to serve all communities. And so that kind of changed our whole thing, where I wasn't on my own anymore. It was kind of this,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, wow, okay, so Valley Voices, whenever they win, we all win. They've had a food distribution, I want to say about 2-3 years now,
Yeah.
in Stratford, nonstop, that they created,
Yeah.
and we support, you know, as a partner. And so that kind of work, I feel more inspired for future.
I met Ruth about a year ago. Someone had mentioned them, so
Yeah.
I reached out and just wanted to learn more about it. But I could tell after the first conversation, it's like they get it. They see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's what we need. More. And
Very
there are more.
collaborative.
Right.
Is the key to me.
And funders actually, like most funders only fund collaborations now. Very few
I like that
fund
practice.
one organization, right? Because they know one organization cannot make the change that we need to make. No one. EOC is a huge nonprofit. Millions and millions of dollars come in from the federal government, and they do some good stuff. But even they can't change, right?
On a large scale.
Yeah. So it's going to take many nonprofits that specialize in various things, because we're all impacted, a family, an individual, we're all impacted by multiple things, and usually there's multiple nonprofits that address those multiple things. So usually most nonprofits don't address all of them. It's just impossible.
Okay, so on that note, I want to conclude this by having you share some insight, because you don't always get to sit down with all the nonprofits of the Central Valley. But if you could get us all in one room, right? Is there any message you'd want to impart on us in terms of how we should be moving forward in today's climate?
Well, I would say whatever you're focused on, learn the depth of that issue, right? Truly, like the historical depths of it, right? Why is it like that? What policies in the past created it? What, and not even, I'm like, if it's a homeless thing, let's just take homeless. It's not even just housing policies. It's like, it's economic policies because everything impacts people. So do understand the bigger picture of what caused that problem. If you want better, the more you know the problem, the better the solutions you'll create for that problem, right? So understand the problem in its complexity, and then understand like what do you do well to address that issue, and then what don't you do well, and what you don't do well, that's who you need to be partnering with, right? Find out those other partners that you can collaborate with, because as nonprofits, like when I launched ENP, it's like I told myself, it's like, well, if I can mobilize the churches the way I want to, like maybe I can get that done in 5-7 years. And I said, okay, I'm done. And like they don't need me anymore, right? Well, and I think I did that really well. But then I realized there were other issues that we kind of shifted to focus on. So, if we're truly trying to make a change in that issue, right? What can't you do to make that change, and who else do you need to be working with? And then, are you measuring your work, right? Every funder wants us to know what your measurable outcomes are, right? Do you know who your audience is? Like, where do you work? Do you have all your data? Know who you're working with, where you're doing most of that work, like what's the demographic of the community you're serving, what outcomes, before and after do you have. The more you have with you on data, the better that you can make your sell. Because most nonprofits do a good job of the stories, right? But it's the stories and the data that can combine to really have a funder look and say, okay, it's like they're. And then what systems change are you addressing? Do you have some advocacy elements to that? So what we look at, is it a service base? Is it like you're just trying to, like, it's a Band-Aid. And there are places for that, right? But who are the ones that are stopping and looking at, hey, there's policies that's creating this. And unless we change the policies, right, unless you go upstream and see what's going on, like we're always going to be having to deal with that issue. Always, always, always. And do we have the money to do that, right? So, or can we actually change policies that make their lives better so that they don't need to be at that food line, right? Or they don't need to be on public assistance or uninsured or things like that. So we got to look at who's actually looking at systems change, because that's truly what's needed for us to make the changes that we need to.
Wow. All right, I just went to nonprofit college, folks. So, well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time this Sunday. I know you're a very busy person, and it means a lot to us to have you here on the couch.
My pleasure.
Thank you for that. From James Chance, Artie Padilla, the Central Valley Community Foundation Director, this is Rob Live saying love, peace, and chicken grease. We're out.